Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
I'm a time traveler from the year 2025, and I've come here to kill you, Hitler.
Oh, not again. I'm never gonna have enough time to finish these paintings with all of these time travelers trying to kill me.
Well, I'm going to succeed.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House, and we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too! That's fantastic!
What? No. Ugh. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silencing those who disagree with you. I do that too! Oh, wunderbar! Oh, the Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... well, as Hitler. Listen, what I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia, as long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people groups.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So, in the future, you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for, like, graduation ceremonies. And dorms. And hiring practices. Oh, and admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I, too, am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask, is this a real firearm or is this some kind of toy for kids?
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture. I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas, too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, look here. Oh, and your shirt. This is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes?
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Jawohl, of course. Oh, she's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights, for women's empowerment,
and the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, very inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare? That's not your thing. That's our thing.
No, it's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Nazi is just more catchy. Nazi. Just rolls off the tongue.
No. This can't be true. This has to be some sort of mistake. We are nothing alike. You're Adolf Hitler, evil right-wing fascist dictator, and I'm a feminist restorative justice advocate. And a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian? Me too!
Okay, I am so confused right now. I came here with a clear goal in mind to kill the most evil man to have ever lived. Besides Ronald Reagan. But now that I'm meeting you in person, you're not at all what I thought you were. And your painting is actually really good. What do you call it?
I call it Ein Reich ohne Juden.
Wow. I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Hey folks, welcome to the program. Do me a finger, will you please? Will you please raise a finger and share this program? We're going to go back in history a bit. And I'm going to give you a piece of history you were never taught. Few things before we get started. I want to give you a word of caution. You're going to see this people trying to spread a BS story about the shooting that took place in Australia was a Mossad-managed crisis actor event, which is disgusting. But just so you know, one of the people that had happened to be there, a well-known civil rights lawyer, also had been in Israel before, because in Israel you practice drills, drama drills, training, just like we do in the United States. And so people are going to say, well, because of that, and that person also happened to be there, that it's a Mossad crisis actor. Folks, get a hold of yourself, and you can watch the real footage and everything else. Another thing, kind of a sad announcement. I want to let you know that with no regard to your political orientation, every single one of us is in this together. And being an American, and we're going to talk about the Statue of Liberty today, being American is being American. Doesn't mean that we always have to agree. Doesn't mean that we kind of have to embrace each other. Doesn't mean that one side's talented, the other side's not, or anything else. Even though I did not agree with the person's politics, his talent in the movie business was talent. And it's so unfortunate, but you're probably waking up to the headlines that Rob Reiner, yes, Meathead, and his wife were murdered in their home. Chills go down my spine as I say this. They were murdered, stabbed to death in their home last night by their own son. The son, Nick. Nick had tremendous troubles in his life. And folks, don't be like the disgusting left. Don't make fun of this. Don't do BS comments. Be a human. And even though, even times online, I went head to head with him for some of the stuff he said, no one deserves this. No one deserves to be murdered that way. Yes, he's a great director, flawed politics. And at the hands of their own child, this is sad. This is horrible. And I would just ask everyone, be respectful. Do not mirror what the left does in cases like this. Don't do it. But it's very sad. But yes, a great talent in the film industry. Don't be like the left and cheer stuff like this going on. That is what makes you the disgusting person. And that's not what we are, and it's not what we should stand for. And it is okay. And it's so relevant to the lesson today that we're all in this together. And we do have our own rights. And he hated President Trump horribly, but that's his God-given right. That's his right as an American. So sad. So horribly, horribly sad. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Harvest Right. I use freeze dryers to protect my food, and you're going to head into another holiday. You're going to have a bunch of food left over. You've asked for this. You can see the website. You've asked for it. We've done it again. Once again, it's still extended through this month, $1,000 off. And you're going to have to protect your food supply. You should think about it, because literally, if you've bought any food supplies, you pay for it really quick. A lot of people are making money on their own. I'll give you an example. I have watched people chopping up liver, very cheap, freeze drying it, and ended up selling it for as much as $30 an ounce, freeze dried, for dog treats. It's a big deal. People are making money with these machines at home, and they're paying for their machines that way, or the payments on it. You can get payments on it. Just, doing it. So all I'm saying is, you may take a look at this. You may take a look at this. We've got this $1,000 off. Here's the code. Scan it on your screen. Jump right there. Today's program is also brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. I partner with Goldco because this is the company that can help you out. I'm just asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com, request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Watch my program I did a few days back about gold and what you should know. Please go to jovanlovesgold.com and check it out. And you might even qualify to get a big, huge bonus of silver. And as you know, silver's going through the roof, folks. It is. And getting ready for the holiday, you still got this going on from CB Distillery, right? Holidays typically are filled with drama, right? Hectic stuff, last minute shopping, late nights that can really frazzle you. In fact, you feel like you're running a marathon or having an endurance test. That's why I'm sharing the ultimate holiday survival plan from CB Distillery. Seriously, everything you need for the holidays here. Stuffing mom stocking with CBD for better sleep, or the gift of fitness for your friends or yourself. Pain relief stick for that workout pain. I use it. Ask people in chat. They'll tell you. Don't forget to grab a little holiday calm for yourself. Maybe it's the gummies. Even CB Distillery product, when you look at their products, what they do is go to the extent of making sure they use premium quality, clean ingredients, no fillers, nothing artificial. And with over 2 million customers and 100% money-back guarantee, it's kind of hard to go wrong. That's CB Distillery. Hey, if you want to scan the code, do it. This year, give yourself or everyone on your list the gift of better sleep, less stress, pain relief with CBD from CB Distillery. Here's the promo code. It is not my normal promo code. It's Rumble, not my name. It's Rumble. You can save 25% off your entire purchase. Visit cbdistillery.com and enter promo code Rumble for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com. Promo code Rumble, cbdistillery.com. Specific product availability depends on your state regulations. Okay, we're going to do a history lesson. Maybe you take notes, but at least pay attention. Don't fall for you're going to see the typical troll stuff. It's going to start about this Jew crap or all this other stuff. Don't do that. Right? Because this is a history lesson you need to know. History helps set you straight on what's going on, what's going to happen. And so we're going to talk about the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I'm going to share with you a history lesson that you might not have ever been taught. Share this program right now. We'll get started right after this.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, let's do this. Let's do this crap cutting. By the way, if you watch the program regularly, you're a crapaholic. Maybe you're a crap addict. We're going to talk about huddled masses yearning to breathe free, a history lesson. More than likely, you were never taught. Those who have been with my program for a while know that I myself am a first-generation American. I am a German Jew. And my mother's line, she broke a purity line, married an American soldier, which ironically, ultimately later, my grandmother did as well. But I think there's a little more connectivity in this issue with me because it's so close in my family. My own grandfather was born in the year 1895. That's my grandfather. But every one of us, with no regard to where you are in our great republic, are the product of immigrants. That's completely different than being an illegal alien. We're going to talk about legal immigrants. And that's why this history lesson is so critically important. And it's something that they don't teach you in school, and they probably should. But I know why they don't teach it, because if they teach you the story of the Statue of Liberty, it's impossible to separate it from what it really stands for, what it was done for, and Ellis Island. And so this is why they don't tell this story. But we're going to go back to the time Ellis Island opened. I'm going to tell you about that first, just so you understand Ellis Island and immigrants first. And then we're going to go a little further back in time. So we're going to start January 1st, 1892. Okay. And that's when the immigration station, right, opened. It ran from January 1st, 1892 to 1954. So my family was some of the last one through the gates of Ellis Island doing it. And what it did is it processed 12 million steamship passengers. Let's put that into context for a moment. Between the years of 1892 and 1954, our country allowed in legally 12 million passengers from foreign countries. And that number is just a little bit over of what Biden did illegally in his administration alone. Think about that. And so this is the gateway for waves and waves and waves of immigrants that migrated to the United States of America through the port of New York to become Americans, to learn English as their language, to make America their country. I'm going to give you some breakdowns during its peak eras, specifically January 1892 through June 1897. Those were the peak eras that happened. The biggest groups by breakdown, 2,502,310 people from Italy. Russia, 1,893,542 people from Russia. Hungary, Poland, 859,557. Austria, part of where my family was as well, 768,132, right? Germany, my quarter family, 633,148. England, 551,969. Ireland, 520,904. Sweden, 348,036. Greece, 245,058. Norway, 226,278. Muslims, and it's not Muslims, it's Muslims from the Ottoman Empire, which was different then, wasn't radicalized yet. It had gotten over that. 212,825. Scotland, 191,023. The West Indies, 171,774. The smaller totals were like Portugal, France, Denmark, Romania, Netherlands, Spain, Armenia, Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Wales, Yugoslavia, Finland, and Switzerland. Those are the numbers. When you think of the two synonymous, Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. So I want to go back in time to how we even got our Statue of Liberty. See, because us as a country, liberty was being kind of newly tested, and it was urgent on both sides of the Atlantic. That was after our Civil War. And France, where republics rose and fell, and emperors came and went. It's interesting because at the time, a circle of liberals in France kind of watched what was going on in our great country, right? With interest. Liberals were watching it because America was the experiment, right? And so they watched it with a mix of admiration and anxiety. Would it work? One of them, Edward Laboulaye, was a historian, an outspoken supporter of the Union, began to talk about a symbolic gift. Something bold enough to say, and here it is, ready? Listen to the words. The Republic is worth defending, and freedom is worth the fight. The Republic is worth defending, and freedom is worth the fight. There wasn't a government order at first, and no kind of treaty project, but this political dream needed a human face. That's what he gave. He gave America a monument, and in doing so, to remind France, the people in France, what they claimed to believe, but they hadn't really practiced in theory. And so what happened, I gave you Laboulaye's statement, which was true. A young artist, a sculptor, big imagination, right? Wanted to do something on a giant scale. That was Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. That was his name. He'd already been kind of thinking about monuments and stuff, right? And he got to thinking about monuments that dominated a skyline. He knew if the monument could dominate the skyline, then it would kind of command the skyline, right? And so when he heard this French talk of the United States, what was going to be happening there, his mind immediately went to the harbor, the threshold for America where everybody comes in, where ships arrived and ships departed, where a nation felt, right? and kind of had the idea, if this is where all the ships and the steamboats come in, there's kind of like this, and they called it the promise written on the water. And so he came across the ocean. He looked at the little island himself, and his mind took off, right? So this New York Harbor kind of gave him the perfect stage. And remember, at that time, it's people's ship coming in. That's where the euphemism comes from. Their ship came in. And so he said, you know what? This wide channel here, this island, it's the thing that myths are made of. Just, you know, kind of like we have the Pillars of Hercules or the Straits of Gibraltar, right? He stood there and he kind of imagined to himself creating something, a figure, a face, so large that when you looked at it, it would seem less like a statue and it would kind of feel like a presence greeting you or looking down at you. You know, we had this when it was one of the seventh wonders of the world's been lost to time. The statue of Colossus long ago in the Bosphorus Straits. It's been lost to time. It was even bigger than our Statue of Liberty. And so that's where he kind of came up with a robed woman that would be kind of calm, right? And upright, holding a torch high enough to be seen from miles away. So that was kind of his dream that he imagined in his head. The project was very hard to get started, right? It did not go smoothly at all. It was stubborn, right? It would take two sides of an ocean of ideas and logistics. France itself would finance and build the statue. That was number one. The United States had their part in the deal, working together, because it was about countries working together. And the United States would build the giant pedestal that would house it, right? And that is a lesson, right? In itself, because liberty wasn't something that you just received. It had to be formed. It had to be created. It took sides. And in order to make it happen, you had to meet it halfway, right? Isn't that what the immigrants did? You know, they left their countries and came to America, and in liberty, they kind of had to meet our country halfway, right? Do their part. Because liberty's just not formed. It's something that you have to work together. So he kind of came up with this idea based in a classical liberty feature, which is Roman by nature, Roman in robe, you know, her posture. But he took that older Roman style, robed goddesses, stuff like that. He took that older Roman style and he rooted it in, at the time, a contemporary meaning. Now, most people don't pick up the subtleties, because at the feet of Lady Liberty, you know that her feet are chained, but the chains are broken. That basically stood for emancipation and the end of bondage, of exactly what happened. But historians don't want you to know that. They want you to kind of tell you everybody's still a slave and all this other stuff, especially when it comes to Black Americans. The tablet in her left arm, he basically, you know, like that's to resemble a civic oath, you know, the oath that you take. And of course, the date, July 4th, 1776. So this just wasn't a woman with a torch. It was a story about law, about freedom, and about the cost of both. Most people don't even get that. And so he had to come up with, how in the hell do you build a statue there to begin with? Not the norm. But how is it going to stand up to salt, right? Blown around by the wind and storms and rain and time and everything else? How is he going to do it when the statue itself was larger than most buildings that had been built at the time? And so Lady Liberty is not only just art, she's an incredible feat of engineering. So the skin, right? Which I always find ironic. The skin of Lady Liberty is sheets of copper. And I find it very ironic that, you know, you may deal with this like my family and livestock and stuff, to keep the fungus, to keep the gunk out of the water, to keep the crap from growing in the water. You know, you throw pieces of copper off into the tubs for the livestock and stuff because it's natural antiseptic, fighting off fungus. Isn't that ironic? It's just a little, when I look at it, I think about it, right? And so the reason they chose copper, it had to be hammered into shape, right? Light enough to lift, and copper's heavy. Light enough to lift, durable enough to last. Underneath it, she needed a skeleton. And so its internal structure, right, for the time became a major innovation. It was an iron framework that had to support and shape, but also support the incredible weight of copper. What most people don't know is it's designed to sway a little bit with the wind, that it will sway and move and not crack. That was the key. You have to understand, if it was stiff, right? If it was just rigid and stiff, it's kind of like humanity. It's kind of like our own ways. You'll snap, you'll break. It's only the resilient that survive. Another interesting metaphor, but truth in Lady Liberty. It was Gustav Eiffel. You know that name because of Eiffel Tower. It was Gustav Eiffel that had already done such an engineering feat with the Eiffel Tower, which was revolutionary for its time. And folks, if you've never had a chance to go to Paris, although it's quite different than it always was because it's been overrun with invaders, but it's amazing. I love French architecture and the buildings and the designs and all of it. It's beauty. It is truly, truly beauty. Well, he had already learned how to do this in iron when he built the Eiffel Tower. And so it was Eiffel and his team that devised the support structure that would be the support system that would kind of be like ship's rigging, right? It would lattice it together and it would endure motion and tension, and it would be able to handle everything this harbor threw at it. Again, just another metaphor for how important this thing was. And so while France and its engineers and designers and architects were doing all of their work, the United States ironically struggled with its part of the bargain. The pedestal that she sits on was designed by Richard Morris Hunt. He was an architect. It was not a small base. It's massive, right? It in of itself is a fortress. And it had to be able to survive this massive, massive weight. It's kind of like if you don't bury your fence posts deep enough, right? Your fence will wobble and sway or the posts will break. And folks, in case you just tuned in, I'm talking about the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, a history lesson. And I hope you stay with me to the end because it's got a killer punchline, but you need the history and the story first. So stay with me to the end, right? And by the way, how about reposting this stream? Will you? Will you repost this stream? Get this story out. People should know this. And so, on the American side, funding was way behind. And so the pedestal wasn't keeping up with the statue. American sentiment at the time is, why would we Americans pay for a pedestal for a French monument? And so people had to get together and they had to understand, like, if liberty actually matters to our country, well, the pedestal is part of that statement. Our country fought about it. Newspapers at the time fought about it. And donations came in slowly. And the United States of America didn't finish its pedestal. It's kind of like a museum to hesitation, because it's not 100% complete. It's kind of like a national museum monument to hesitation cast in masonry. And then what happened? The story kind of took a perfect turn. Sometimes it feels too perfect. And a publisher stepped into the role and said, I will help Americans, my fellow Americans, understand why this is so important. I will help persuade them. He was a American, a Jew from Europe. And he basically dedicated his public publishing resources to launch a fundraising drive, and that was Joseph Pulitzer. And so he got into the public debate so people could really understand what was at stake. And he made sure that people didn't see this as some elite project, because it wasn't. It wasn't a vanity project. But this was a monument of our nation and a monument of our people, not some elite BS design project. And that's what people were worried about. All this is just for politicians and the elite, same stuff we deal with today. But Joseph Pulitzer came to the forefront and made it happen. And all he did, truly, all he was able to do was to translate why it's important to the wealthy, because and why it was important to the everyday man, the everyday person on the street. And so what he did is he kind of recruited everybody into it, and the pedestal began to rise. And that way, what was very important is America would see this project as something that Americans were part of, that not just something that was given to America, right? You've been through it with family, friends, or people that didn't deserve something or didn't care about it. You gave them something and they just kind of disregarded it because it was a gift. Joseph Pulitzer knew that you couldn't do that. You had to get people to rise to the occasion. You had to get people to claim their part of it and understand it affect them. So what happened? By the early 1880s, Lady Liberty started appearing in pieces in Paris. In fact, you can find pictures of this online to see her as she was staged and boxed and crated up. The hand alone, just holding the torch, became, in France for a very long time, while they were building it, a monument on its own. It was just incredible, of mythological scale, to see just this hand holding this torch. And it drew crowds from all over Europe to go see this thing. And it basically let the world know this is real. You have to understand the importance of that. America had ripped itself apart with the Civil War. Other countries were watching with bated breath. Would this American experiment last? Could they get their crap together, right? And so the world was watching. People came all from Europe to see it. And it let them know subliminally, part of what's our culture is America is not going to give up. America is about freedom. America is about liberty. Even though communications were completely different then, this is what bound people across the Atlantic to know this American experiment was here to stay. It was kind of prophetic, right? Never give up. And so as the people on both sides now begin to claim it and to understand what it was, on both sides of the ocean, this became like a act of faith. People knew something great was going on. And they began to get this monumental thing kind of put together and for people to understand it. You could look at small models and stuff. And so Lady Liberty, and most people don't understand this, Lady Liberty took the immigrant journey herself. The icon for our country, to leave your native country, to come to ours, but become part of ours, to become an American. So you didn't leave other countries, Germany, and go to France, and all of a sudden you're French. Or from France, you go to Germany, all of a sudden you're Germany. Only in America did that happen. Again, prophetic. Because only in America were you transformed. You became something new. An American. Again, you got to understand just how monumental this was. And so they took her apart. They're going to send her across the Atlantic. She has to become cargo on a ship, just like people. She was dismantled into hundreds of sections. They were numerically marked. You put her back together kind of like a puzzle, a numbered puzzle. And there were 200 different crates of Lady Liberty that she broke apart into. And then it was transported by a French naval ship, the Isere. And so as she was folded into boxes, right? You're right. Who said that? CFK? Assimilation was the key. It's only in America you become something different. You've got to remember that. No other country has ever had that. And so because this was now such fanfare, because Joseph Pulitzer did a fantastic job of explaining to America why this is important, it's just about teaching its truth. People gathered on the shores as the Isere came in, and it was a huge celebration. People came to the waterfront, not only to see the ships, but to watch it kind of be unpacked. This was something very sacred, very important to people just watching. See, because the French were able to see it. So the French start chattering about it. And of course, the word eventually gets across the Atlantic. And people in America could not wait to see it. And so on Bedloe's Island, oh, you haven't heard that name? Well, that's Liberty Island. It was Bedloe's. It got changed to Liberty Island. And they began the painstaking work of getting the lady assembled. And for a nation, this wasn't just a statue. It was more kind of like building a cathedral, kind of like Notre Dame, building. And if you've never seen Notre Dame, so sad you're looking at a reproduction now. I've seen the original before the Muslims burned it down. But it was like packing up and sending a cathedral to be erected. So it wasn't just putting together a statue. right? It was like the greatest people in the world that built cathedrals. They just sent you the pre-cut stones the right way, except they were, copper and scaffolding and all this other stuff. And she kind of rose up in a very windy place, by the way. So piece by piece, the iron framework went up, the copper skin got fastened over it, plate by plate, seam by seam, until the figure emerged. What you saw was the drapes of the folds of the robes first, of course, and then you saw the tablet there. Then you saw her beautiful face, right? And we're going to talk about the president at the time, but I'm asking you to hang on to the end. Trust me, hang on to the end, because there's a very important part of this history you were never taught. And you will understand what I'm doing, by the way, if you just joined, as I'm talking about the huddled masses yearning to be free, a history lesson you were never taught. And there's a reason to this, and I want you to hang on to the end so you understand something that was intentionally, to this day, is not taught in history. You'll understand why. So they got the torch on. It completed her silhouette. As you look at her, you can imagine her going up. All of New York, in fact, the world watched, and the harbor gradually acquired a new ruler. On October 28th, 1886, the dedication arrived. The day was full of noise, of industry celebration, people celebration, cannon fire, boat whistles, speeches, marching crowds. The president was Grover Cleveland. He presided. And as you look at her, imagine all of New York standing there looking at it. And the ceremony itself framed the statue as a bond between nations, a statement about American ideas. Yet the more lasting meaning was already forming in the minds of those who would see her from the decks of the incoming ships. She stood, look at it, you see it on my screen. She stood at the threshold. She's not fully city, she's not fully ocean, but you've got to realize what she stands for. She's the boundary between an old life and a new one. The next one sends the chills down my spine. And that's part of why, as I go through these, and you understand why all of this is so important, it's part of kind of the divine part of it, right? Her meaning expanded beyond the intentions of her planners. Originally, pay attention to the words. Most people don't understand this dedication, but pay attention. Originally tied to the Republican ideals of end of tyranny. I'm going to say that again. Originally tied to the Republican ideals of the end of tyranny. Now you understand one of the reasons they don't teach about it. And so she became, in the American imagination, the guardian of arrivals. Remember, she stands straddled between the two. You're no longer in the ocean, but you're not in the city. It's the gateway. You left what you were, and you're becoming something new. That torch became the light, the first famous light of a new continent for millions. You got to understand that's what we became here in America. We became the new continent, not just the new country, the new continent for America. Of course, the copper, it was very bright in its early years. Imagine how she shined for a moment, right? You know her as green. But imagine when she was a copper penny, bright and shiny. Imagine that. It has to be one of the most beautiful things ever beheld. And as people came across the ocean, leaving their old lives, coming to become something new. And I can't stress that enough. We were the only country where you left your old country or old world behind and you became something new and different. That does not and did not exist anywhere else in the world. Still to this day, I don't think anywhere else in the world like that. Even though she's oxidized, either way, she looks like she belongs in the skyline, right? So this Statue of Liberty, which kind of seemed inevitable that America would end up with her, right? It was just inevitable. You got to understand everything with her. But you got to understand the story of her is more human than just a statue. She was invented because of political hope, shaped by an artist's vision, made possible by engineers, delayed by money, rescued by ordinary people making donations, boxed up like a puzzle, carried across a dangerous ocean. Think about it, how many ships sunk in those days. Think about that. And she made that trip. And then she was rebuilt bolt by bolt in dangerous winds. She is, and chills continue to go down my spine, she is the epitome of arriving based on big ideas, coming to a brand new life. Not as a perfect gift, but a hard-won construction. She went through everything, even my mother, my grandmother. I still have many relatives in Paris to this day. Internationally, all over. It just didn't symbolize liberty. She took the journey. She taught it silently. And what did she become? She became American. You ever thought about that? Lady Liberty is an immigrant. She became American. And when somebody looked up, they saw her, and she has never faltered, always holding up that steady light to the harbor, never divided, no hyphen on her. Now you can imagine the hoopla. This was a big event. So I want to give you the rest of the story that most people do not know, because this wasn't delivered by President Cleveland himself. Many people gave speeches. But I want to give you the last speech, the closing speech. It's at the end. I want to introduce you to this fellow right here. His name is Chauncey M. Depew. He gave the concluding address to dedicate the Statue of Liberty on October 28th, 1886. So you know who he was. He was a very prominent New York lawyer. He was a railroad executive. He served as a U.S. Senator in New York from 1899 to 1911. He's the one that brought you New York Central Hudson River Railroad. He was a Republican politician. I want to read you the words of who got the last word in this Republican dedication of Lady Liberty. As you look at him, you can imagine him speaking it, but he was the closing summation. I'm not going to give you all his speech. I'm just going to give you a few important highlights. He went on to say, we dedicate this statue to the friendship of nations and the peace of the world. The spirit of liberty embraces all races in common brotherhood. It voices in all language the same needs and aspirations. The full power of its expansive and progressive influence cannot be reached until wars cease, armies are disbanded, and international disputes are settled by lawful tribunals and the principle of justice. Then the people of every nation, secure from invasion and free from the burden and menace of great armaments, can calmly and passionately promote their own happiness and prosperity. The marvelous development and progress of this republic is due to the fact that in rigidly adhering to the advice of Washington, and I really want you to pay attention. We're talking about Lady Liberty, and this is her dedication speech. I want you to pay attention to the words because they're very important. This marvelous development and progress of this republic is due to the fact that in rigidly adhering to the advice of Washington for absolute neutrality and non-interference in the politics and policies of other governments, we have avoided the necessity of depleting our industries to feed our armies, of taxing, of impoverishing our resources to carry on war, and of limiting our liberties to concentrate power in our own government. He was talking about how we got it right when we were right. Our great civil strife, with all of its expenditure of blood and treasure, was a terrible sacrifice for freedom. The results are so immeasurably great that by comparison, the cost is insignificant. The development of liberty was impossible while she was shackled to the slave. The divine thought which entrusted to the conquered the full measure of home rule and accorded them an equal share of imperial power was the inspiration of God. He basically said, your own land become your people, not conquer and become the people. We didn't take over any countries, never have, that we've had to fight wars over. And he basically says, was the inspiration of God, with sublime trust, it left to liberty the elevation of the freedom to political rights and the conversion of a rebel to patriotic citizenship. One more time. With sublime trust, it left to liberty the elevation of freedom to political rights and the conversion of the rebel into patriotic citizenship. But there's more to the story. I think you can understand why liberal systems won't teach that story. They don't want you to know we're a republic. They don't want you to know that we've been through this and history's been through us and knows the end results. They don't want you to know that the great people that did it were Republicans. They don't want you to understand all that Lady Liberty fought for and that she is the symbol of assimilation and coming something new. You're not a rebel. You're coming to be patriotic. But there's one more piece to this story you need to know, because it was the most important statement of all, and it's why you don't know of these people. And so I'm going to give you the closing statement. He closed with, "There is room and brotherhood for all who will support our institutions and aid in our development. But those who come to disturb our peace and dethrone our laws are aliens and enemies forever." Now you know why they don't teach it. Now you know what she stood for. Now you know why they want to just call everybody migrants or immigrants when they're aliens. There is room and brotherhood for all who will support our institutions, and aid in our development. But those who come to disturb our peace and dethrone our laws are aliens and enemies forever. And now you know why the system doesn't teach this, because it's always the truth they're afraid of, and that's why they rewrite it. That's why I decided to do this story, to help you understand how special our nation is, how lucky we are to be here, but what was always intended when it came to people coming from a foreign land to become something different, and that was an American, to transform that rebel into a patriot. Share this program. I love you all, and now you know.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "it's the machines," or "the machines changed the votes," or "the voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archives secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.